they were going to talk about how to scale AI in banking. You've probably heard about what AI will do to us, to the financial services industry in 5 to 10 years. But we want to help you scale from 0 to 1. So basically, how do you take the first step? You know, how do you make it work? And we're going to have a very diverse perspective. So we're going to have banks here, BBVA, Garanti. We're going to have a consulting perspective from Arjun de Little. And they're also going to have an implementation perspective from Finshape and hopefully from us as well, if I do get the time. So you've heard so much about the potential of generative AI and generative AI in particular, because nowadays when you talk about Gen AI, about AI, it's mostly Gen AI. But I want to share with you a recent study from McKinsey, most quoted consulting company in the world. So a study from, I think it's just a couple of months ago, looked at 800 global banks, and out of these 800 global banks, 5% of them already adopted Gen AI and attributed more than 10% of the operating profit to adopting Gen AI. So we're at the beginning, but 5% of the banks, larger banks, already attribute more than 10% of the operating profit to this technology. So yes, I think it makes sense that at least we know how to start, how to look at these first scenarios that we need to tackle. Okay, so first question. It will be an open discussion. Each question will be addressed to each and every one of you. We only have like 4 or 5 topics, but hopefully you're all relevant. What stage are you currently in terms of adopting AI technologies for you or your customers? Are you currently evaluating? Are you at the POC stage, or are you actually going with something in production? And what were the accelerators or the limiting factors in adopting AI as a technology? Let me share the mic. You want to pass the mic? Yeah.
I will just answer shortly because it's already very late and I appreciate the crowd that's already still here and I see still some eyes looking at us. You know, BBVA Group already publicly stated that they have a big agreement with OpenAI. They got, I think, some thousands of licenses, which was distributed among all subsidiaries in Latin America, in Turkey. Also, we appreciated a couple of licenses in Romania. And now our stage is, first of all, as a group, we are trying to understand, because it is, first of all, a black box at the end of the day. It's not too much in control what we do. So we are exploring the internal efficiencies and productivity gains, possible gains, overall as a group. And we will start in December some overall meetings, including all subsidiaries, to share our experiences, to share the some bad experience and good experience in a way that we are going to benefit from, maybe for the same subject, some place it will work, some place it will not work. We got our training materials, everyone is distributed, how to write a prompt, how you should act like, talking to an AI master agent. So we are at this stage now. For customer usage, we still see it a little bit risky because we don't know when it's going to start. Because we also tested a little bit ourselves. We don't know when it's going to start giving not correct information or when it's going to start hallucinating, as we call it. So we are still a little bit cautiously aware of the possible, let's say, misusages. But most probably starting from next year, it will be, as a group, definitely is going to be in the agenda of all BBVA Group in terms of the experience.
Okay, I must admit that also we have the same experience with usage of Gen AI with chatbots directly with the customers. So we started 1 year ago, 1 and 2 months ago, 1 year and 2 months. And after 10 months, we ask ourselves why it doesn't work. So, and there are some answers there. We started already. I am leading a small team in BBVA, which, let's say, the main reason for this team is to for research on generative AI and to create some innovative solutions with to use the technology for creating new solutions. And also we started education in our responsibilities as a team, let's say, is to educate first users. We see education at all levels, from beginning foundation of Gen AI, let's say for everyone, then for managers, who needs to understand what Gen AI is and is not, and how to manage and in future. Also, we thought to have advanced AI learning for advanced prompting engineers, for non-IT people to start programming with natural language, which I think this is the most important thing of Gen AI. And for expert, it's clear that the IT engineering is shifting from one way of doing software engineering and developing software to something where we probably will need less engineers, IT engineers, but skilled with Gen AI and these tools. So it's impacting. So learning it's one, then finding solutions, of course, Q&A chatbots first, then document understanding is a real help for us, let's say. I see a lot of use cases there, and we started already to even run something in production. And last but not least, to cope with regulations. AI Act is coming, and we need to have all the governance policies and everything in place. So this is the small picture of what I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don or Arjun,
I'll
please.
ask.
What's your experience from the other side, so looking from...
So I'll just say a story. Basically, when I jumped into technology, I started as a data scientist. I had a very good, let's just say, mentor at IBM, and he said, okay, go through statistical, tell me what you know. I went down the rabbit hole. That's usually what's happened in YouTube. I jumped to deep learning, and he said, why do you use a bazooka to solve a simple problem that can be done statistically? So we have 3 pillars that we provide to our clients. One is the statistical learning. Even though it sounds like very antique, actually it's a mature, tested and validated solution. It's a personalization platform that analyzes transactional data, creates customer profiles, and actually enhances the power of marketing campaigns. For example, we raised a lot the number of traveling insurance. We can talk about this one in later examples. I will not get to this one. We also experienced with Gen AI. We experienced 2 years ago, as everybody, because as ChatGPT rose, we started, like I said, of POC to embedding into the client solution systems. And we now have something that is like groundbreaking. It's a beyond banking tool. It's an enhancement of the PFM. It's an advisor, AI advisor. Just imagine you want to go skiing, and you want to set not only your saving target, but in the piggy bank, as you save, there are popping up. Why about the insurance? Why about the accommodation? And since we are a very eco-friendly company, since everybody knows an eco-friendly company, but we actually do that with carbon footprint insights, we start proposing, I know, traveling, such using the bus. This might save a lot of energy, and also you can get some carbon footprint credits extra. And in the end, if the banks have the time and investing in us, we have customer profiles which are not generic but well tailored based on experience, but we can, with the help of deep learning, because now we got to the deep learning part, we can unveil the new profiles which might help us better with a specific bank. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. So I have 26 minutes now.
Yes, you can use all of it. 25.
Well, you made a
25 and a half.
You made a mistake of calling a consultant on the stage, right? You shouldn't do these mistakes, make these mistakes.
And asking generic questions, open questions.
Right. So, okay, so let me try and kind of bring this together from a perspective. Obviously, we are not working for a particular type of consultants, a particular type of clients. We are fortunate enough to work with incumbent banks, digital-first banks, non-FIs, especially telcos who are introducing financial services quite rapidly in a number of markets, and actually central banks too, right? And there's an interesting angle towards central banks. If I'm able to weave that in later in the session, I would. Now, unlike my esteemed peers at McKinsey, I don't have a report to show you, but I did do something from a proprietary perspective, within the firm about a month or so ago. So I had my team sort of scale up some numbers. So it's just to throw some interesting numbers, right? And by no means this is a global survey. It's more towards, if I may say, the east of Romania rather than the west of Romania, right? So our observation is about 90% of our FI clients are either exploring or in some phase of playing with AI, right? I think a lot of them are still figuring out, one end is AI, but how do we actually get downstream benefits for it, right? One of the very interesting case studies was we were working with one of the capital markets players who's introducing a new wealth tech platform. They're working with a fintech, which turned around and said, I can create 4,000 unique portfolios for you, or unique client portfolios, profiles for you, personas. Their response was, well, that's well and good, but we can only actually service 5 products. So, I don't really need 4,000. So I think everybody's quite excited about it. I think there is a little bit of confusion, right, in terms of how do you really do it better. I know there are some great examples. BBVA is doing a great stuff, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Bank of America. Some of the big names are actually sort of getting ahead of it because they have deep pockets and they can actually take a bit more of a regulatory risk. I also had sort of dig up the report to what were the sort of big challenges that our clients are facing. And funnily enough, one of the biggest one was the session which took place with the AWS gentleman before, right? Most of the banks and a number of markets have still not adopted cloud, right? And that sort of really slows down AI adoption and milking it, right? The other was around regulatory ambiguity, right? And compliance, because people actually don't know how the regulator is going to respond. And typically, classically, if you've seen something with regulators, regulators tend to struggle with the implementation of technologies in the financial services sector because they're not regulating the technology itself, they're regulating the use of that technology, right? And that sort of creates a bit of challenge. And then lastly, I think if I go back to an issue I've been around for too long, I'm too old, I'm too cynical, I'm too bald, is that, we've had this data issue, and I think that data issue continues to exist with a number of people in terms of it. So I'll sum it up with saying that those are the kind of challenges we're seeing. Right? Agree, disagree? Just don't beat me.
I agree. One comment regarding the previous with the data. Yeah, the data is the problem. I think in the end we will figure out how to integrate AI in the end. But regulators in Europe, they know how to regulate, and we have AI Act. So this next year will be AI Act like GDPR projects, and yeah.
But there's a point here on, I think yesterday's discussion, if I may pass on, you had a point of view in terms of regulation, right?
Come on, Tolga, you have to.
I don't want to put you on the spot.
Please, take the main mic.
You talk about the regulatory part, or? Okay. This AI thing last year just dropped in our hands just like a bomb. And I don't think that it's just not the industry, but also all the regulators were caught off surprise. And they, I think, as usual in European Union, Brussels felt like they had to do something about it. And we just received this AI regulation, which is a good step. Because, however, of course, as usual, as always European Union regulators do, vague regulation, high penalties. Whoever jumps into, inside is going to be penalized. So everyone is now stopped and waiting for the correct innovation. So that we are looking at who is going to be penalized, who is not. So it's safe or it's not. So we are looking at each other, also fintechs and banks. That's why we are very cautious on this sense. However, we have to think that, to be honest, on personal opinion, I'm not afraid of let's say, what artificial intelligence can bring. I'm afraid of the people who are like monopolies that can be using this. That's regulation. I'm afraid that's going to be protecting more instead of democratizing it. Because it's going to be a huge power. I don't think that many of us understands what we are waking up to. We are going to be always questioning the truth. Truth is going to be a different story for our next generation. And this regulation is supposed to protect us from that type of monopolies, not from the regulation itself, not for the tool itself. At the end of the day, if AGI happens, And of course, one step further, I don't think any regulation can regulate the software. So this is the first time that humankind is actually, after it destroyed all the other humankind's Homo or Australopithecus, all the other Homo species, this is the first time we are going to come up with anybody as intelligent as we are, maybe more intelligent, and we are going to be, let's say, waking up to a new era that we don't know of. Nothing in the past that we have thought of is going to be representing the future. That's my personal opinion, and not the regulation, unfortunately, doesn't cover this part. It just covers a vague party and just, addresses us and not, protecting the actual software itself and encouraging the monopolies. So it has to be a little bit more democratic from my perspective.
I can comment further on this part.
Please.
I think we still have some months when we can play with the technology. So in January 15, we'll have the first AI Act that will become official. So those fees, penalties will apply. Can be applied, but officially from August will start. You will be charged. Anyhow, so what I am thinking in the last 2-3 months is how to stick around, how to democratize AI without pushing the buttons, red buttons of everybody, which acts as the safekeeper in the bank. Because my role is to innovate, so I need to bring a technology, but in the end I have my colleagues, which are risks guys and so on. So basically we have a solution. I think the solution is to go for internal usage, only internal, without going to client, because we are exposing too much the risks there. And we have already examples where chatbots propose something and the company gets a big fine. So that's a risk already happened. So basically the idea of democratization of AI, which we strong, let's say, pray internally in our company, is to learn, to educate people to use it. Because in my opinion, generative AI, first of all, for each personal employee, will need to be like using a smartphone or Outlook. You need to know at least to make good prompts. Good prompts will save you time, that's for sure. And to understand how to use it will make a difference. So those who will play with good prompts, I think in next year, in all knowledge workers, how we are saying, will get a competitive advantage.
Want to say anything on regulation?
Yeah, I mean, prompt engineering, I think it's a job nowadays, because we can see there are a lot of sites that does that already, like enhances your prompt. I'm giving you like the architecture standpoint, because there are also some projects that I play in the spare time. If you cannot create like a good prompt about what you want from an image to become, then you don't get the right result. And this is like the minimum. But on the regulations part, as a software provider, we must comply to this one, because regulations are the guard defense of AI. And we can only do to test and our solutions to be bulletproof in order to avoid penalties, right?
So let me try and shed some light. I'm just going to go back to some data points. Earlier this year, I was at the Singapore FinTech Festival. A couple of guys were there. I somehow or the other get invited to all these sessions where I have little to contribute. I sat in this Chatham House Rule session with, I think there was nearly a dozen regulators in the room, and the question was around regulating AI. And so I had some notes from that session. I can't obviously name who was in the room, but here are the 5 or 6 key takeaways which came out. So the first one was very clearly the point which you mentioned, Tolga, which is their fear is that regulating or over-regulating possibly makes it very expensive to compliance, and therefore it drives the benefit towards the few rather than the many, so the democratization doesn't happen. The other bit, that wasn't particularly mentioned. I'm just going to play back what 5 or 6 points was. But the other thing which came up was that there is this concept of the black box of the AI system. right? And in effect, in terms of there isn't much transparency in terms of how the action is made, and as regulators, they were saying that that's what they struggle with. Like the other aspect they said is that if you really see the pace of innovation in AI, you know, every 2 minutes we have actually outdated what was yesterday, 2 days ago. Their view was, how do we actually draw a line in the sand? How do we continue to regulate at that pace of innovation? I'm sure there are answers out there, right? And then a couple of interesting things, which was, they were quite actually open about, you know, lack of skilled resources, expertise, right? They were saying, you know, the whole market lacks it, and we're the last people who are going to attract the real smart talent, right? You don't go running to a regulator if you are, you know, good at AI. And the last bit, and I think this came up in the discussion, Tolga, when you and I think we were talking about.
Arjun, can you talk in the mic?
Sorry,
Thank you.
the last thing which came up was the whole global nature of AI, right? So how do you actually, you know, regulate within a domicility or a jurisdiction when actually AI is very much borderless, right, and the way it will play out. So here were some sort of data points that came out of that discussion, which is what quite, but I could actually feel and see that there was a sense of that we are struggling with this idea. Right?
Good, thank you. So we actually touched on some of the topics that were planned for a bit later on, but that's great. Let's maybe zoom in a bit on how, as an organization, you can find the proper scenarios for AI, and which are maybe the most profitable ones, most efficient ones. Because I know everybody's bombarded with information about AI, and this, honestly, even us as a company, we see the potential in it, but we see that the confusion it generates for a lot of our customers because they receive information of all kinds from all sources. Everybody's interested in AI. So I think it's great if we can maybe provide some examples and even better some guidelines on how to choose the scenarios. I think we already have an initial idea of focusing more on maybe on internal scenarios, internal efficiency scenarios versus customer-facing ones, maybe due to regulations, limitations imposed by the regulations.
We are scary about what can happen if we go to...
Yeah. So which are the scenarios you've seen as potentially beneficial for AI usage that would generate efficiencies, generate short-term benefits?
I see that, in banking, I'm working 20 years, I think, in banking, 2 banks. We have this mantra of digitalization, and for the big banks, digitalization reached a percentage probably 60–70% on the mainstream products. But there are a lot of operations behind with unstructured data, mainly documents, questions answering, and so on, which makes a bank, I don't know, running with all the legacy and so on. And here I think it's very, it's a big potential. So I can say that if we are smart enough to use, to start spreading the benefit of prompting, creating system instructions or something, templates, and integrate it, creating it without IT people. That's my point. I'm an IT people. I don't want to create prompts for business. I want for business to create their prompts. So I need to learn them to create prompts and to put that prompts where they need it, in a ticketing system, in some email mailbox that receives documents from customers, and something is happening internally in the bank. So basically there I see a lot of potential of efficiency. And I can say if we manage to have a 5% efficiency plus in a year, it's a huge impact in the bank. And this will happen, I'm pretty sure.
Good. Any other opinions? Any other? Please.
Maybe someone else has to answer this question first. I will speak the GIA first. They can put on behalf of ourselves first.
Then you have to.
But with a voice, please. So this is our chatbot. Hopefully, I hope that there was a voice also, but there is no. It's not coming.
Maybe you can talk over Tolga, what's exactly what we're looking for?
Okay. So I think the subtitles were already expressing themselves. So this is actually how we started at this point. Representing the two things. One of them is the message that we are having. We are trying to give responsibility to the bot to solve our problems, which we cannot solve by either big costs or giving too much effort. Second, now is also we are trying to say that we are going to, as a bank, as an organization of service, we are trying to put. This will come later on at the end, please. So you can. So we are trying to put all the customer-centric approaches and customer needs to be solved by our bots as much as possible, including whatever you can think of, because there are three fundamental points that we can detect. So at this point, what we are thinking is what at this point we are able to solve with the customers, but for the customers, but which with using AI, how much of this tasks, how many of these tasks we are expecting the customers to solve themselves. This is the one thing. Second, after doing it, which type of capabilities that we have today, personally or as an institution, that we have to evolve, because most of the, let's say, operations or costs are going to be, operations are going to be managed by this type of bots. And three, what capabilities that we don't have today, we are not aware of, that we have to come from scratch. So these three fundamental questions are actually shaping our plans or strategies among the AI. So what we have detected is, very cliche, 3 points that are also 3 points which are expected to have advantages of. One of them is, of course, efficiency. I put some numbers here, not from the bank because we are still under the test, but from other industries. For example, in terms of efficiency, large real-world study found that a generative AI assistance for the customer servicing, the call center resolved 14% more issues per hour. And also, AI assistant completed tasks 7% more accurately and 23% faster. So this is just for the operator, and this is just the first phase of a test. And more productivity, BCG consultants made a study among their own consultants. AI-augmented consultants completed 12% more tasks on the average and did them 25% faster. And also, lower-skilled consultants, their scores rose 43%, while the scores of the highest skills employees rose by 17%. So it not only helps the people which are doing very operative tasks, but also the management. And also, of course, having this as management, what we are able to do is right now, is thinking strategically. And since there's going to be a resource, free resource, we have to now think of how we are going to reallocate them to the more strategical approaches, like as a company, where are you going to grow, how are you going to allocate, how are you going to train, so on and so forth. So this is actually a little bit also increasing the vision indirectly. This is how, very basically, a little bit cliche, but at this point, this is that much we can do. And after all these tests, we are going to see, we are customer-facing, helping of the GI, which is Garanti Information Assistant, to see, where we are going to be heading to.
Good. Okay, so I think we can move on to the next question. So we kind of answered that in part, but how do you see AI as more valuable in the future? Is it more embedded in the banking products that you offer to your customers or to the products that you develop internally for operational efficiency, or as an everyday support for all of your employees? So I think, Dan, you already have a very clear philosophy on this.
Yeah, it's
so
clear, yes. I think we will get to this embedding AI, at least for my company, and I know what is the risk appetite for my company, my bank. So basically, let's have it in control and master it for internal processes, and after that, let's find out. We have AI, but not Gen AI. We have AI in the bank, and every bank has it in the risk models. So there is a lot of AI already. All the rules that we have for I don't know, liquidity and all the banks, bank factors and numbers. There is a AI, but Gen AI, I think we need to master it next year. And we have a lot of use cases there in internal processes, using AI as a tool for the moment, as a tool that is not so disruptive in the existing systems. Because now I see a lot of competition between platforms. Everyone has their own AI, and I see we have a lot of platforms that we are using, from software engineering platforms for CRM platforms. Everyone comes with, I have AI, I have AI. We put AI inside the mobile application. Everyone is bringing, and it's copy-pasting the same architecture blueprint developed by someone from NVIDIA. But in the end, so basically we need to start with small steps to have concrete efficiency gains, and the devil stays in details, in my opinion, because we started big. We saw that it's a big blocker to go to have a chatbot with all the knowledge in the bank, because the knowledge in the bank, it's in the human brains, and the procedures are written for regulators. So there's a lot to be done until mastering, but I think for us, the decisions are simple. Democratization means learning, education, and starting from internal processes.
Thank you.
I think we do both, and I don't think something is more better than the other, but let's get to the examples. All our products were basically on insights of years and years. As I said, this transactional data. Raiffeisen International just won a prize of the best application due to the personalization features that it has last year. But then we said, we must take a step forward. Let's do like a low-code, no-code, AI-powered platform for our users. Why do pre-sales the normal way? Wireframes, drawing, communication, where you can have something drag and drop and you create your own windows. I said, this is what I want. In a hackathon that we had this year, because we're doing hackathons internally on Gen AI, we had a prompt that said, I want a loan screen. And it generated. Now, let's say we want BCR logos and BCR colors, and it automatically, just like this. They save us a lot of time. So that's why I think it can be internally and embedded in the systems, but it can come as a help for the users to better know what they want from us. Thank you.
I'm not going to repeat any of the things that the gentlemen here have said, because they know this better than I do. So I'll be a bit of a hopeless romantic, right, in terms of looking forward. So I think one of the things, at least in the parts of the world that I tend to operate, and I cover pretty much everything from Japan to this part of the world, I think AI will be the catalyst of change for people who forgot the concept of sunk cost with their legacy infrastructure, right? I really think that it's kind of the point of inflection where these guys will have to now make that big shift that they have avoided for years, and so on and so forth. Might not be the case with you guys, but trust me, you know, the vast majority of the world is in that equation. The bit that I get very excited about, and actually is something that we spend a lot of time with our clients, is to say, you know, there's this whole concept called embedded finance, right? And we all get very excited about it. Again, trillions of dollars get associated because some consulting firm publishes some report about how trillions of dollars can be made out of something or the other. But I do think AI really acts as a catalyst, right, for true embedding of this financial services, regulation aside, right? So in terms of hyper-personalization, right, that's one thing. It can be done. It is possible. Contextual financial services, right? So real-time responses, right? That's kind of where it sort of comes in, right? There is hyper-automation that we can actually do with AI, right? So one of the areas I do think that AI very quickly, right, withstanding regulation, and it will vary based on different countries, withstanding infrastructure where you sit, is I think will actually truly realize the potential of embedded finance, within which currently in its truest sense is lots of payment use cases and BNPL, right? We haven't really embedded financial services the way we should have, and maybe AI will help catalyze that, right?
Perfect. Okay, so talking about personalization, do you actually see the potential for AI to help you go from those 5 products that Arjun was mentioning. Most banks obviously have a very limited number of products and very standard ways, algorithmic ways of adjusting them slightly. Do you see AI as a potential tool for hyper-personalization or adapting your products to individuals, and even maybe in the future creating new products? While conversing with AI, while learning how to prompt engineer, do you think that people will be able to come up with new products? Using AI, obviously. And
my opinion is clear, not this year, not to 25. I think for us, maybe JP Morgan and Morgan Chase, which have big pockets, probably they are doing investment funds and so on. But here in Romanian ecosystem, in Romanian banks, I think we need to master it, learn it, educate ourselves, and then maybe we be smart enough to create some more value added for our efficiency. It's too much risky now to go too bold, in my opinion.
Okay, Tolga?
I will start again, as usual, with the definition. So, as a business, what we call business is, according to also Harvard Business Review, I read this, I think, a nice definition, is organized, structured expertises coming together. And when we say expertise, it is actually called in 2 ways: in-depth knowledge of doing something, and being very good of doing it, executing it. And when we say that also, and also what business requires is also profitability is managing internal and external costs all together in an efficient manner. In all these perspectives, artificial intelligence gives us the opportunity to have all expertises that humankind or in banking or in different sectors that we experienced up to now, all these years, to be learned in a very short time period and to put into execution in very efficiently. And it is going to be most probably it's a business itself. Of course, the skill sets that are going to be able to manage this is going to be different. And in terms of product management, it's not like, it's not a means to an end. I mean, we are not actually using this for the product, because at the end of today, we are an institution, a profit-generating organization, profit-oriented. There's a need in the market. We are face-to-face with this need. What we are doing is actually, the customer needs something, and we are accustomed to, we have to oblige to provide this. We take away one step. We put an expertise and leave it to the customer to ask at that moment what they want. I want a loan, but I have these constraints. Give me the best option. And I just leave the artificial intelligence to provide instead of sales, instead of credit department. And okay, that's fine. Utilize it, send the money. I mean, this is like not really product management. But all these flows, all this expertise, all this business cost management, everything is now going to be reduced to a single entity, single thing, which is scary at the same time, because we don't know, as it's a black box, if it's a really good decision or not. Maybe artificial intelligence is testing us for some time that it gives correct decisions, and then one day it's going to start giving you wrong decisions. We being very careful. This is going to be the usage cases, most probably. Having an expertise, very concentrated, very skilled, very much front execution, but we'll never be sure about if it's correct or not.
Lucian, we are running out of time. Time is up, but I know that Tolga still has a presentation to make. So
okay. Yeah, so
okay. Because we have people that have to run. They have a car at 6:15. That's why I'm trying to wrap up, please.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, gentlemen, thank you. Just as one conclusion, so if you want to start using AI in your company, start from the bottom up, democratize it. Everyone should probably learn prompt engineering. Pick one platform, stick with it, learn how to use it as best as possible, and improve your internal processes first. That's the easiest way you can adopt AI and reap the low-hanging fruits. And with that being said, we have a small inspiring speech from Tolga regarding the future AI.
Can we have the presentation, guys, on the screen?
Yes, if you can please roll the presentation.
You can sit. You can stay. You can stay, guys. Let's.
So just as a closing remark that we wanted to make is because it's one of our favorite topics. You know, I will be very short. I want to ask if anyone knows what Moira is. Any Greek speaker here? No.
I used to know a girl named Moira.
From the mythology. So I'm just going to make a very small introduction. That's how we see this before we have the closing speech. You know, these are Moira is fate sisters, actually, which are representing the, let's say, humans' fate after they are born. There are three sisters. Clotho, she is the one who is spinning the thread of life, and she's, let's say, visits the baby after it's born in 3 days with her sisters. She determines, she gives the thread, she puts the thread, and then Lachesis, the second sister, measures it to define how long the life is going to be, and how is it going to be, let's say, the life is going to live its, the person is going to live his life, or her life. And then Atropos, the most dire one, which is actually cutting the thread when the time comes. So, I made an experiment because, according to how I see it, Atropos is going to be the one which is going to be representing the turn to the artificial intelligence or the robotic part, because, and I asked Midjourney to come up with this prompt, surrendering the thread and the measure to their transformed sister Atropos. Because, you know, when we are talking about artificial intelligence, we are not only talking about banking system and others, we are also talking about the usages in the biotechnologies, in the quantum computing and also others, and coming together, I asked Midjourney to produce an image of Klotos and Lachesis giving the thread. And these are the pictures that it has generated. So this is actually what it comes to the question that when does this start? And it is actually already started tomorrow, we want to say. And how long does it last? You know, there's a very good, which I admire, Greek director, Theos Angelopoulos, and one of its most admired movies, Eternity and the Day. And it has so nice a soundtrack, which is done by Eleni Karandriou. I don't think any artificial intelligence can replicate it. And I think the answer is here. If we can run it, because I cannot run it from here. This is Alexander in the movie, with permission to Theos Angelopoulos. I wanted it to represent to humankind with all, you know, on the eve of the change, on the eve of the transformation. So we have tomorrow only, and it's going to last almost probably eternity, but also, of course, we will have to pass through this transformation.
Wow.